Hi, this is Greg Goernert of Goernert Wealth Management and Canaccord Genuity Wealth Management. This is my Insights and Perspectives podcast. Welcome to the May 15th episode of my Insights and Perspectives podcast. In this Business Toolkit episode, we'll be talking about protecting your business in these unprecedented times. And to do that, I'll be joined by Joanne Weiler.
You're bringing up probably a trifecta of stressors that we've probably none of us faced before, being prepared for, or have anything to kind of really in our lifetime go for in terms of role modeling.
Well, markets have rebounded sharply from their March lows, even as unemployment has spiked sharply due to the lockdown measures put in place to help slow the spread of the COVID-19 virus. In my main newsletter, So Now What?, I discuss the push-pull dynamics of global central bank stimulus programs versus the real-world effects on the economy that the pandemic is having and how we're positioning our equity portfolios going forward. I'll put a link in the description, so let's get to it. My guest today is a registered clinical counselor. In addition to her private counseling and coaching practice, she gives public presentations, lunch and learn seminars for program facilitators and corporations via online platforms. She works with government organizations, professional associations, and nonprofit organizations on a full range of topics relating to successful strategies to help people thrive in their careers. Welcome, Joanne Weiler.
Thank you, Greg. You know, I always find that when I hear my bio out loud, I think, wow, is that really me? We don't often sit back and just think about who we really are. And even, you know, in these pandemic times, I think a lot of us are kind of sitting back and thinking, reflecting, who am I? Because we've been given this grand pause by Mother Nature and this COVID-19 that has shown up in our lives. And it's time to pause and reflect and wonder about how we are being and how we are showing up in our lives. And so it's my honor to be interviewed by you. Thank you so much for asking.
Well, no, you're welcome. Now, the reason why I wanted to have you on, and this has been something I've been thinking about for a while, is we focus a lot on the Business Toolkit segment here on your financial wealth, on accounting, on investments, on different strategies. We've had different coaches on talking about different parts of managing a business. But in this time right now, it really seems that it's calling out for leadership. And I know that in many different ways, when I talk to my clients, they're adapting in different ways to making business work here. But at the end of the day, they're the leaders, and everyone is looking to them, whether it's he or she. Some of them have to have laid off staff. They've got to focus on the stress of figuring out, when do I bring my business back? What's it going to look like when I bring it back? They've got family challenges because we're all on top of each other. Their families looking at them for leadership. What kind of strategies are you seeing that people are using to successfully get through this and make sure that they hit the ground running when we come out of this?
Mm-hmm. Well, you're bringing up probably a trifecta of stressors that we've probably none of us faced before, being prepared for, or have anything to kind of really in our lifetime go for in terms of role modeling. So you're right, it's really a time for leadership, of not panicking, about looking forward and planning more than ever. One of the things that is common for an emotional response during this time is the feeling of, I don't have any control. Mm-hmm. I don't have control about a fluctuating market. Our economy has been, up and down, and for many people, these are having impacts on viability of long-term futures for their companies staying afloat. So with that, of course, making adjustments about staffing and having to make those tough calls on laying some staff off. And even though we know that the government is offering the subsidies that are available to staff to kind of allow them to bridge this time, it's still really stressful, and it's hard on on firms that are so loyal to their staff, that really, really care about their wellness and well-being, to have to go to that place of laying people off. So the main thing is I think number one is working sort of top to bottom, which is, I would say, start in the family, start in, the actual leader's family. So think about, how am I being a leader within my own family first? Mm-hmm. So try to kind of keep a team kind of feeling going, no matter what age your kids are at. Have a meeting at breakfast over your morning cereal, and just talk about what is going on for the day today, so that you've got a feeling of support heading into your professional day. So, that would be the first thing, to start a conversation so that you actually feel supported at your work, because you're working when you're working. And even though that work is happening inside the home front, there's got to be a sense of boundaries and sanctity for the time that you are working, so you can concentrate and focus and not feel kind of pulled in three different directions, so that you end up, with a result of burnout symptoms.
Mm-hmm. Now that brings me to a topic. How important do you think that routine is in these times? Because everything's been changed so much. I think it's really important to establish a routine and try to normalize things as much as possible.
You're absolutely right, Greg. If you think about, we're kind of in a bit of a war right now with COVID-19. And in war times, military thinking is what generally most countries go to. And but we've got the added benefit of, we are emotionally involved in and there's a lot of value and there's a lot of reinforcement that comes with our community connections at work and at home. So we're, for the first time in our lifetimes, we are all in this together, right? Globally, we are all in this together. And many of us, our work has been global in any case. Now we're actually, fighting this war together globally. And what's happening is a shift from the sense of disconnection and isolation to, world family. Kind of a sense we're all in this together. So whether we're talking just in Vancouver, British Columbia, or whether we're talking North America, or whether we're talking across the globe, we are all in this together right now. And that is the first time in history that's really happened. So yes, heading to some structures, ways that we can, all of us, think together. And we're kind of seeing that just in the basic sense of this physical distancing as a strategy globally, to some, places like Italy, where it's actually lockdown, but comparatively to here in Canada, where we're just in physical distancing, 2 meters apart strategies. So I think just really maintaining a commitment and thinking about not just ourselves, but the impact that we can have on others. So what we do differently actually really will have an impact, positively or negatively, on others getting through this period of time.
What strategies are you seeing people employ that are most successful?
Okay, so I love that you're coming from a place of positivity right now. What's working for people is actually setting up a family meeting first thing in the morning. Mm-hmm. And then if you had an important conference call to make, you'd let everybody in the family know that at that time you're not going to be available. And so that you can actually count on not being distracted. What happens is when you can actually really focus and be present at work, then when you get together with the kids later, you can be really present and focused, feeling complete with the work you did. So then you are having a better relationship with your kids when you're with your kids. Mm-hmm. And if both, mom and dad are both working, then I would do a trade-off, and one person is, on call with the kids, and the other is, immersed in their work. So trying to work smartly is being present in where you're at, not trying to wear multiple hats at the same time. And that's one strategy. And then at the end of the day, check in with how that felt for everybody, and if you need to make adjustments, that you can continue to do that. And then try, if you can, if you're not in Italy and if you're here in Vancouver where we are able to go outside, just using that social distancing or physical distancing strategy, get outside, because the brain really thrives with dopamine, and you have dopamine when you change your environment. So going outside to the park, or go to the ocean's edge, or to get into the woods, and go at times that are not going to be as busy as for instance, it's probably less busy during the week than it is on the weekend, but take a lunchtime out there, and just by doing that one thing about going somewhere different gives your brain a boost of dopamine, which is the happiness hormone. So it makes you feel kind of hopeful again, and less penned in. And when you're out in natural environment, focus the attention to the senses, so the 5 senses, so that you can actually really take in the smell of the trees and the cedar, so that your brain actually is calmed. The sense of smell is the one sense that does calm the limbic system, which is your stress centers of the brain. So just by simply focusing your attention on the sense of smell when you're out, you actually calm the nervous system. So you can do that as a family, to practice this together. And then once you've kind of got that going, then you can just imagine that on the times that you can't actually get outside, but just take a 5-minute break to focus on what you recall from the walk by the ocean, or walk in the woods.
Right.
Those are a couple things. Yeah.
And I would suppose that exercise would be really important too, and just part of your normal fitness routine to keep that in place. I know that my son's
I'm a
school.
big advocate for that.
Yeah,
20-minute hit. Yeah, 20 minutes actually makes a huge difference. And what happens when you exercise is that you reboot your whole system, kind of like rebooting your computer, and you increase blood flow to the brain. You actually help get rid of cortisol hormone, which is flushed through the kidneys. Cortisol is the stress hormone. So, and there's been a ton of research on stressed lab rats, and ones who exercise and ones who don't. And it's amazing the results in even just in hair loss, effects for those that are not exercising versus the ones that do. So exercise is a huge thing. Thanks for bringing that up. It's really important. So a brisk walk or a jog, or getting on your bikes and riding around the neighborhood, which is easier to do with social distancing than, say, riding over to Stanley Park, because that's tending to be a little bit busier. So just riding in your neighborhood, it's easier to social distance.
And how do you attack the isolation? Because one thing I've noticed that in some people, not in everyone, but I do sense that there's some people are taking the isolation better than others, and I think one of the what happens now that's robbed us of usually the way that we cope with things, or at least I cope with my group, is that usually when there's a big event, a global event, usually, we have a social get-together of some sort. My clients, we get together and we kind of commiserate all together. And that's kind of been robbed from us for now, where we can't get together in big groups and share our stories together. I know we can reach out with Zoom, and we do that as much as possible. But what other things are you seeing people doing to be successful, just to kind of break that isolation?
It's helpful actually to use like a platform like Zoom and to conference call with people so you can. There's also some apps that you can get on your phone called House Party that's really great too, so you can play games on it, and set that up. There's also just for some people I've seen them get involved in setting up a book club and reading mutual books. So if it was for a work thing, you might actually all read the same book. It might be, Strengths Finder book that you might want to all read together and then talk about it. So you can have a point of connection in that way. And, some of these are systems that you might end up long-term continuing well past COVID-19. So there's almost a positive impact from this big pause that we're having because we can actually, maintain long-term wellness. Music's also another wonderful way. Music has been shown in various research with, for instance, Alzheimer and dementia patients who really show an improvement in brain impact with just playing music. So with having music played for them, and actually singing is a wonderful thing. I think you have a wife that sings, and that's a wonderful, wonderful talent because it's a gift that really is calming, and it accesses the creative centers of the brain, which is calming again to the limbic center and to the amygdala, which is where all the trauma that we go through is stored. So music is such an important way towards health and connection.
Now, you brought this up a couple of times or touched on a little bit, but you're right. There is an opportunity here. I think that there's an opportunity here to change things that perhaps you haven't had the time in your regular career, all those projects. I'm not talking about the projects around the house, but which obviously those are important too. Apparently all the home hardware places have been super busy these days. But I think from a business point of view and going forward, we actually have been given a bit of a gift, not we didn't want it, but to be able to take some time to reset certain things, maybe find things in our business that maybe weren't working right, and work on strategies and game plans to fix those going forward, and to essentially pivot going forward. What are your thoughts on those kind of strategies?
Absolutely, Greg, and that's such a good point that there's been some really positive impacts through this COVID-19 pandemic. And one of those things is that there's a greater level of trust when people are connecting together through things that are not about work. And when we care about each other, we'll work harder and we work better. So when we're in a practice of health and balance, your brain actually functions better, so you're more focused at work and able to get more done. You're actually also increasing the level of trust between you and other employees. So what you'll find is that people have got your backs. They will go the extra mile when the mile is needed. And so we actually are functioning at a much higher level of sort of existentially feeling that we matter. And when we have that sense that we matter to someone or to an organization, there's really no stopping human potential. So that's the difference. And I'm hoping in some ways, and I'm so saddened by the rising death tolls, and it's especially really challenging to hear that for some, the impact of this period of time has been so much so that we heard in the news yesterday there was a doctor that took her life to suicide. Yesterday.
Yeah, I did read that.
And, yep. So we're kind of seeing people reaching their tolerance level and kind of opting out. And so at any level, I think these challenges mentally can show up for any of us, So it's so important to be talking about the range of feelings we all have and vulnerabilities that we have, no matter what we're doing in our lives. And so nobody has the crystal ball about what's going to be happening with the economy, and you're in a financial field, and all of the people that you're working with are dealing with the variability in our economy right now. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't know for sure what is ahead of us, but what we can truly count on is each other.
At least it seems to me that we're moving a bit past the panic stage and a bit of there was a bit of hysteria to begin with, so it looks like rational thought might begin to take over here, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, there's stages of grief that we're going back and forth on, and I've kind of, been referencing Kubler-Ross's stages of grief, and we started out in denial, feeling like this is surreal. How could this happen to us here in Vancouver, or in Canada, or North America? And for those in the UK, they're probably saying the same thing. And so we're kind of moving through a grief process, and through that, trying to kind of make the needed changes working from home. It's stressful. So, even just creating a physical space that is viable for work is hard and stressful, and requires the family to be a team and to collaborate on the commitment to the boundaries needed to a space that is workable as work. So depending on what age kids are, there's conversations about mommy and daddy going on the magic bus to work as though they're going downtown, but they're really just in the home, but that they think of them that they're not in that room at the time that they're working.
And now we've got a lot of adult kids having to move back home, back from university. Classes have been canceled, or even young adults having to give up their apartments and move back home. I've seen many cases of that right now. So there's definitely a squeeze there. And
yeah,
interesting. So one last thought about best way to deal with this going forward. We've talked about routine. We've talked about fitness. We talked about positive attitude. Anything else you can add?
You know what? Just really appreciate yourself for the efforts that you're making. I think one of the things as a culture, we've got a kind of perfectionist mentality around things, which instantly puts a lot of pressure on all of us. And so we don't often sit back and think, well done, I did a good day today. And we need to do that now more than ever. So really affirming ourselves as well as each other is going to help, keep us hopeful and rising up through this challenging time. So really, really being present and appreciating the small and big things that we are all doing.
That's great. Thanks for sharing your insights today, Joanne. A lot of good nuggets to take away and to put into our daily life. But thank you very much, Joanne Weiler.
Great. Thanks a lot, Greg. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and visit us at our website at greggoernert.com. That's GregGoernert.com. Thanks again.